Globe Report.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Thursday, November 13th, 2025, and we're here to cut through the noise on the biggest stories coming out of Mexico and Central America.
Good to be here. And our mission, as always, is to really synthesize these complex stories for you. Today, we're tracking, well, everything from geopolitical challenges to some pretty stunning historical discoveries.
It's a real sweep of stories, that's for sure. It captures the dynamics of the region so well. We're going to start with some of the more difficult news, the coordinated actions between the U.S. and Mexico against criminal organizations.
And a related but different challenge, a new joint effort by Costa Rica and Panama to manage, this complicated flow of reverse migration.
Then we'll pivot to accountability. Mexico's Supreme Court just delivered a pretty landmark ruling on taxes against a major billionaire.
We're also tracking a serious weather alert. A new cold front is bringing some very heavy rain and serious flooding risks across southern Mexico.
But the future is definitely calling. China's BYD is confirming its electric vehicle manufacturing plans in Mexico. That's a huge one.
And on the environmental front, Mexico just unveiled an incredibly ambitious climate plan at COP30, setting an absolute cap on emissions for the very first time.
Right. And then we get to celebrate a bit. We're talking culture and science. Archaeologists shedding new light on the ancient Maya with a 3,000-year-old cosmogram discovery. It's amazing.
Plus some good news for the Panama Canal and a few scientific wins off the coast of Belize.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start where the challenges are, well, most immediate. Security and border pressures.
The fight against transnational crime is, it's continuous. But what we've seen recently are very pointed actions from both the U.S. and Mexico.
This isn't just routine, is it? It feels like a deeper bilateral commitment to go after the financial side of things.
Exactly. We saw that with the U.S. Treasury Department's latest sanctions. They went after 10 Mexican casinos that were identified as basically fronts for the Sinaloa cartel.
And what's the immediate impact of something like that?
Well, these sanctions are a powerful tool because they immediately sever those businesses from the formal banking system. So the strategy isn't just to punish, it's to disrupt. It makes it exponentially harder for these networks to launder and move the money that, fuels their operations.
Right. Okay, moving a bit further south, there's a different kind of border challenge. This idea of reverse migration.
Yes. We're seeing thousands of people who traveled north, couldn't get into the U.S., and are now moving back south. It's a huge logistical and humanitarian issue.
And this is where that new program comes in, the one announced today.
That's the one. Costa Rica and Panama have launched a coordinated transit program. They're providing safe conduct passes and buses for these migrants, a lot of whom are Venezuelans. I think the number is over 2,200 people have already used this path.
So is this mainly about humanitarian aid, or is there a security angle to it as well?
It's both, really. The humanitarian aspect is what brings the stability. This coordinated transit, it runs from Peñas Blancas in Costa Rica to a shelter in Panama, and it directly counters the so-called migration mafias.
The groups that prey on vulnerable people.
Precisely. These groups charge up to $300 for an illegal and often very dangerous crossing. So by providing an official route, the governments are ensuring safety and at the same time maintaining some regional control.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's talk about a totally different kind of enforcement. Financial accountability at the highest level in Mexico.
This is a landmark decision. Today, November 13th, the Supreme Court upheld these major tax claims against companies owned by billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego.
One of the wealthiest men in the country. We're talking about his core companies, Grupo Salinas and Banco Azteca, right?
We are. And this is a huge victory for the Mexican Tax Authority, the SAT. It really reinforces the current administration's drive to enforce fiscal discipline, especially among the wealthiest.
And these funds, they're meant to go towards social programs.
That's the explicit goal. The administration has been relying on collecting these outstanding corporate taxes to fund social programs and infrastructure. So in a way, it's a direct transfer from corporate high finance to the social budget.
Interesting. From that kind of macro-level enforcement, let's look at something more grassroots in Honduras.
Yeah, this is a great contrast. Honduras is launching a nationwide financial literacy campaign aimed specifically at owners of small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs.
And what does that look like on the ground?
It's free workshops, online resources, Everything from budgeting and how to get formal credit to just understanding tax compliance. It's all about strengthening that SME sector.
Which is so critical for job creation, isn't it?
Absolutely. The SME sector is the real engine for stable jobs. When you formalize these businesses and give the owners better financial skills, they just become more resilient, more robust.
Okay, let's pivot now to the environment. We'll start with an immediate threat before we get to the more uh, ambitious long-term plans. There's a severe weather alert in Mexico right now.
There is a new cold front is moving through, and the big concern is the rain. We're talking about potentially torrential levels, maybe 150 to 250 millimeters in southern Quintana Roo.
Wow, that is a lot of rain. That's enough to cause some really dangerous flash flooding.
It is. Civil Protection is issuing urgent warnings. People in low-lying areas really need to be careful. The potential for disruption is very high, especially in those coastal tourist areas.
Now, for some good news related to water, but with global implications. The Panama Canal.
Yes, this is excellent news for global supply chains. The rainy season has finally brought rising water levels, which means the Canal Authority can start easing the severe drought restrictions that have been causing huge backlogs.
So for anyone listening, maybe in Europe or Asia, what does that actually mean for them?
It means more efficiency and lower costs. The canal is one of the world's most vital maritime shortcuts. So when you reduce those backlogs, it speeds up delivery times and, it puts downward pressure on freight costs globally. It's a great sign.
From environmental recovery to, well, massive long-term vision. Mexico's climate plan, unveiled at COP30, is being called historic.
It really is. For the first time, they are setting an absolute cap on greenhouse gas emissions.
An absolute cap. What does that mean in real numbers?
It means they're committing to limit total emissions to between 364 and 404 million tons of CO2 equivalent by 2035. And that's using their own domestic resources. For a major emerging economy, that is one of the most ambitious targets we've seen.
That's a huge goal. And a goal like that needs modern infrastructure. We've seen some progress there too, right, with that new highway?
Yes, the new highway connecting San Luis Potosi and Querétaro. It's a crucial artery. It provides a much safer alternative to the old Corridor 57, which is, frankly, notorious for accidents. It's a big deal for trade efficiency.
Speaking of trade and manufacturing, let's talk tech. BYD, the Chinese EV giant, is moving forward with a massive plant in Mexico.
This really solidifies Mexico's position as a global EV hub. The formal announcement is expected before January 2026. And remember, BYD sold 40,000 vehicles in Mexico last year alone. This is a huge commitment.
But it must raise some geopolitical questions, right?
Yeah.
How does Mexico balance this huge Chinese investment with its relationship with the U.S. and the North American supply chain?
That is the geopolitical tightrope Mexico has to walk. The investment is great for jobs, but it definitely complicates trade talks with the U.S., which is trying to secure its own domestic supply chains.
So what's BYD's play here?
It's very strategic. They're positioning production inside the continent, and they're already integrating locally, launching an electric taxi program in Nuevo León with 3,000 cars, timed perfectly for the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
That's smart. Okay, let's talk about another future driver. Connectivity. The EU-LAC Digital Alliance Week in Guatemala.
Yeah, that event had some concrete results. The big one is the expansion of the Bella subsea cable. It now extends to Central America, providing this huge capacity, like 20 gigabits per second, for research and education.
And Costa Rica is still leaning into its digital nomad strategy.
They're doubling down on it. The goal is to diversify the economy away from just tourism. By attracting these skilled remote workers, they stimulate local spending, especially outside the big cities.
And one last piece of innovation, this one very local. The new water purification tech from Mexican university researchers.
What's so fascinating here is just how practical it is. It's cost-effective, it doesn't need electricity, and it uses local, natural materials. It's a genuinely scalable solution for remote communities that desperately need clean water.
Okay, let's move to the most uplifting part of our deep dive. Culture, history, and scientific wins. And this is where it gets really interesting. This ancient Maya cosmogram discovery.
This is a stunning, stunning insight. The site, Aguada Phoenix, is already known as the oldest and largest monumental structure in the Maya area, about 3,000 years old. But this new research shows it was actually a massive cosmogram.
A physical map of their universe.
Exactly, sprawling over 9 by 7.5 kilometers. But the most profound takeaway is how it was built.
Labor force, right. It changes our understanding of that early society.
It completely changes it. The evidence suggests over 1,000 people worked collaboratively and voluntarily, not under coercion from some king or priest. space. It was a communal, unifying project, kind of like Stonehenge, not like the later pyramids. It just redefines early Maya social structure.
Wow, that's incredible. A stunning insight. Now, moving to modern heritage protection, let's celebrate the recovery of a sacred painting.
Yes, a painting stolen from a church in Teotihuacan almost 25 years ago has been recovered. It was spotted at an auction. It just shows how important that international cooperation is in fighting art trafficking, a real win.
Great news. And let's group our last few positive stories.
For sure. Off the coast of Belize, researchers found a new species of deep-sea coral, which just reminds you how much biodiversity is still out there.
And in Mexico, the 4 Women in Science Award.
Right. L'Oreal and UNESCO presented their award, providing a huge amount of funding, something like 90 million US dollars, and celebrating incredible scientists like Julieta Fierro.
And finally, unity through sport and art.
That's right. Guatemala is getting ready to host the 2025 Central American Games. And at the same time, artists from Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala are collaborating on a regional peace mural project using public art to symbolize cooperation.
So when you put all these threads together, what does it all mean?
You know, this deep dive shows a region that's not just reacting to crises. It's strategically working on long-term change. Whether it's the financial discipline for social programs, the will to enact those ambitious climate caps, or attracting huge investments, the solutions are coming from within.
From local innovation and regional cooperation. That sweep from tax courts to ancient astronomy really gives us the full picture.
And it raises an important question, doesn't it? Especially when you think about that 3,000-year-old Maya structure built through massive voluntary collaboration. What current challenge in the region, whether it's climate change or organized crime, will ultimately require that same level of massive communal and international collaboration to actually solve?
A compelling thought, connecting the distant past right to our urgent future. Thank you for guiding us through all of this today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.